Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
It's Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. I'm Greg Carr, sitting in for Roland, who is giving a speech in Syracuse, New York right now. Here's what's coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The Supreme Court drops another bombshell of its own, giving the green light, at least stopping the lower court pause, giving the green light to deport migrants into countries they've never even lived in. Our friend and friend of the program, legal journalist Ellie Mystal, will explain what this controversial decision means for immigrant rights and how it violates principles of due process. Ceasefire confusion. No surprise there in the Middle East. Israel and Iran say the bombs have stopped, but the violence hasn't. What about the Palestinians? Is this the end of the so-called 12-day war? Texas Congressman Al Green, fresh off his latest rising to the floor of the federal legislature to call for the impeachment of Donald Trump, he's going to drop by live. He'll be with us here in the studio to explain why he filed those articles of impeachment on the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief, Donald the Con Trump. In tonight's Crockett Chronicles, Representative Jasmine Crockett goes off on Republicans and their hypocrisy about lowering costs for Americans. In our Shop Black Star Marketplace, we will feature the resurgence of a pioneering name in black cosmetics. If you're above a certain age, you probably remember Fashion Fair. Well, it's back. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin.
The United States Supreme Court has just given Donald Trump and the Trump administration, particularly his immigration czar, Stephen Miller, that racist, a significant win on immigration. Now the government can deport migrants to so-called third world countries without giving them a heads up, a chance to call a lawyer, or provide an explanation as to why going back to the countries they are from could be dangerous. We're talking about people from places like Myanmar, Cuba, and Vietnam. Some were almost sent to South Sudan. In fact, they were back in court today, the Supreme Court, to get a clarification on the ruling yesterday, which was a short, unsigned order. These folks, 8 of them, were almost sent to South Sudan, a country they've never even stepped foot in. Trump's strict deportation policy is back, at least for now. We'll be talking, hopefully in a moment, with our good brother, Ellie Mystal, who is justice correspondent for The Nation. And while we're teeing that up, as I said, the order, which we'll talk about in a minute, he'll walk us through that and some of the activity that's taking place today. We're going to go straight to our regular Tuesday night quorum of folk, all trusted, reliable voices. Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the Environmental Protection Agency, and here in Washington, D.C. Our good brother Larry Walker, Dr. Larry Walker, associate professor, University of Central Florida, Orlando, Florida. Brother Walker, that associate, I smell some tenure and promotion, brother. Congratulations, if I haven't told you before. And I think there's some tenure and promotion in the air. And we all 3 of us, all 4 of us know what that is. And of course, rounding out the Tuesday night panel, our good sister, Dr. Niambi Carter, author, associate professor at School of Public Policy, University of Maryland, one-time professor, colleague at Howard University here in Washington, D.C. In fact, Niambi, let's start with you, sis. This court is wilding. What do you make of the recent, now the Supreme Court overturning the lower courts there, the Boston judge that said, wait a minute, you can't just send people out the country without hearing nothing. What do you make of this latest development?
Well, I mean, I think, the Supreme Court is intent on giving Donald Trump whatever he wants. I mean, South Sudan is not the safest country for residents. So the fact that you would send people who are not citizens, who know nothing of this country, and with no real mechanism or institutional context to keep them safe, bring them back into anything. It feels like the Supreme Court is just intent on helping Donald Trump break all kinds of international law. So I don't know what to make of this other than the Supreme Court is just as whack as the president.
Indeed, indeed. In fact, I'm glad actually, Doc, that you said that, because we've got our brother who I'm sure has just finished a hit somewhere else. He's everywhere at once these days. He's ubiquitous, and that's our friend and brother, Professor Ellie Mystal with The Nation magazine. Ellie, you there, brother?
Can you hear me?
I think he's there. Oh, there he is. Okay, we got your thumb up. Okay, good to see you, man. Hey, Dr. Carter just teed it up for us. You know, we're trying to make sense of this latest ruling. We saw the dissent, of course. Sonia Sotomayor is not playing on that bench, and neither is Ketanji Onyeka Brown-Jackson in these moments. But could you walk us through where we are right now? There's been some activity at the court today. In fact, since this story broke yesterday, give us a sense of your interpretation of this ruling and where it fits in the longer arc of what this administration seems to be trying to do to immigrants.
Right. So the first thing that everybody needs to understand is that this court allowed Trump to violate an international human rights law, an international human rights treaty that this country has been a party to for over 3 decades. Okay, the treaty is called the Prevent Can't Send People to Terrorist Countries. I'm forgetting the name of the actual of treaty, but what it says is that you cannot send people to a third-party state without first ascertaining whether or not that state commits torture, tortures prisoners, violates various human rights. That's again, 30-year-old treaty in this country. Trump is doing that. He is sending people to third-party states that violate that international treaty, and the court said that that's just fine for now. What they did legally was that they lifted a lower court injunction that was meant to block Trump from sending immigrants away in this fashion. And they lifted that while saying that sometime later, sometime in the future, they might decide on whether or not Trump's actions are legal. So, 2 or 3 years, there's a good chance that at least 2 of the Republicans will come around and be like, actually, we shouldn't send people to countries where they're going to get tortured. But in the meantime, Trump can send people to countries where people are going to get tortured because they lifted the lower court injunction on what he's doing. And this is what the Supreme Court has been doing all throughout the Trump administration. As many of the viewers of this program knows, Trump gets defeated all of the time in lower courts. He gets defeated in front of Republican judges and Democrat judges. He gets defeated in front of Obama judges and Biden judges and Reagan judges and Bush judges, and even sometimes Trump judges. Trump gets defeated, loses in the lower courts like the Jets lose football games, all right? But the Supreme Court comes in after the fact and basically reverses those losses, lifts injunctions, lifts the things that were meant to stop Trump, and doesn't agree with what he's saying, but they say like, oh, we'll just decide that later. And in the meantime, Trump gets to have his policies and continue his terror campaign against immigrants.
Let's go down that road a little bit. Ellie, like you said, they continue to lose at lower courts, and of course you've probably already talked about this, the whistleblower that over the Department of Justice is saying that Emil Bove was out talking bad in these email streets, talking about we just ignore the law, just defy the law and see what happens to us. But could you spend a minute helping us understand the importance of dissents in these cases? We know it's a shadow docket. They get there fast. It gets to the court, a quick, 1 or 2 sentences, but the dissenters, in this case, Justice Sotomayor, of course, joined by Kagan and Ketanji Onyeka Brown-Jackson, wrote a fairly lengthy dissent. Why is that important? And what's the difference in terms of how she's interpreting the law and how they are interpreting the law between that and the majority?
Well, first of all, Sotomayor and Jackson, they're interpreting the law. The majority is not. The liberals are interpreting the law. The Republicans are trying to figure out how to allow Trump to get away with it. That is the key kind of intellectual difference between the two sides. That's the difference in their project. The Supreme Court on the Republican side, there are times where they're not even pretending to interpret the law. They're not even keeping up the appearances of having a real legal foundation for what they're doing. They're just kind of saying, well, Trump's the president and what can we do? Well, a lot. And that's gets to your question. That's what the dissents are doing. They're saying there's a lot that we could be doing. There are various ways that we could be stopping him. There are various legal codes and ethics and statutes and precedents that we could be using right now to stop, again, the terror campaign that Trump is on. But the majority of the Republicans won't agree, won't enforce those principles and statutes and precedents, right? In terms of legal value, nothing. The dissent has no legal importance. The reason why people spend a lot of time writing them, and the reason why they're so important, is that they are what future generations will look for. They are what when these cases eventually get overturned, people will point to these dissents and say, like, actually, it's the dissent that was right. The majority got it wrong, but there's already a record for how we should have interpreted this law or that law. Republicans, they love to point out the one dissenter in Plessy v. Ferguson, right? The one dissenter who said that separate but equal wasn't equal. Republicans quote that guy all the time. Like, see, not all of us white people were wrong. There was one guy, right? So, like, that dissent has, like, stood the test of time. There are others. But that's why Sotomayor, Jackson, and Kagan write them. They also do a thing, and I think that in this moment it's critically important. They give the media talking points for how to understand these Republican rulings and attack it on a different scale, right? A lot of people, they don't have legal training, that they haven't been following the cases closely, but when Jackson or Sotomayor or Kagan writes a really clear or really strongly worded dissent, it alerts everybody else, all the non-legal media, that, hey, something is rotten here. Something is, at one point, Sotomayor called it the stench of the Supreme Court. The stench is pretty pungent here. And the dissents sometimes alert the larger media to the fact that what the majority is doing, what the Republicans are doing, is not something legally that they should be allowed to do.
Absolutely. Well, before we go to Mustafa and Larry, I want to ask you one final question. And I'm glad you brought up the media, because a lot of times people will read the headline or hear the headline and not realize that the merits, the underlying merits of the case, this isn't what they're deciding at this point, right? So when Sonia Sotomayor opens her dissent by saying in matters of life and death, it is best to proceed with caution, she's talking about the process, right? She's not talking about the underlying issues. And I wonder if you could help everyone watching understand that this case has not been decided on its merits. This is about what rights these folks have to actually be heard, and they're allowing them to be deported. Could you just spend a second maybe helping everybody understand the distinction between a ruling on the merits and one that's dealing with the process?
Yeah, so the best way to understand it is that the law is super complicated, right? And it's very rare that you get to this kind of yes, no, up, down question on was something legal, was something illegal. Courts, I would say, sometimes go out of their way to avoid answering that question and instead answer the question, was this done in a legal manner? Was the process we used here correct? Because if the process we used here was correct, then a lot of times we don't even have to get to the question of whether or not the underlying thing was correct, right? Like that's the kind of lawyer's way of wiggling out of some morally and ethically challenging decisions. The way that the Republicans use these procedural rules, however, is, again, critically important and I would argue devious, right? Because they understand that on the merits, on the actual moral, ethical quandaries that we're talking about, Trump is wrong. Trump is wrong about the Constitution. He's wrong about the statutes. And again, he's wrong about the United States' international treaties. He's just legally wrong. But by making it a procedural ruling, saying basically, well, he was wrong, but he followed the right process to be wrong, what it does is that it allows him to continue to do illegal, unconstitutional things without the court either weighing in to stop him, but also without the court saying like, oh, we support the illegal, unconstitutional thing, right? Because they couldn't get away with that. At some level, they couldn't intellectually get away with saying, yeah, this treaty that we've had for 30 years, it just doesn't matter anymore. The courts can't do that. But what they can do is say, oh, well, the president is interpreting the treaty right now, and we can't stop the president from interpreting treaties, so go on with your bad self, right? So it lets them allow Trump to get what he wants without having to endorse what Trump is doing. And it's a very thin slice of the salami, right? It's a very, I would say, intellectually dishonest game that the Republicans on the Supreme Court are playing. And that is the other point of the dissent. That's what Sotomayor was spent a lot of time in her 19 pages calling out the majority for doing.
No question, no question. Appreciate you, brother. In fact, let's open it up and let's bring in the rest of our folks tonight. And I'm going to ask Dr. Ali to start. Brother Mustafa, any questions, comments, engagement here with our good brother Ellie Mystal?
Well, Ellie, it's always good to see you. Thank you for everything you continue to do. It's also interesting how the Supreme Court brought this case forward. You might want to talk a little bit about emergency dockets and how, things that have been lingering out there often get pulled forward.
Oh, yeah. So most of the Supreme Court versus Trump issue is on what's called the emergency or shadow docket, right? And there's a very good reason for that. Trump moves fast. The executive moves fast. Presidents move fast. Courts generally move very slowly, right? And so when Trump is kind of on the precipice, on the cusp of doing something horribly illegal, horribly unconstitutional, and as Sotomayor put it, truly matters of life or death, people need to not forget the plaintiffs in this case who were arguing for their rights, they've already been sent to Djibouti. They are trying to litigate their rights from Djibouti, with Trump trying to send them to South Sudan, where they will likely be tortured if Trump, now that Trump has succeeded, right? So the emergency docket is a way for the Supreme Court to kind of quickly hear matters of life or death. We see it all the time before Trump. We saw it all the time in death penalty cases. Issues where, absent a court ruling, it is likely that somebody is going to die. Now, what the court does, however, is that, and we saw this, we can see the difference between Trump and Biden. When Trump wants to do something unconstitutional or illegal, the court will do what I said, lift the injunction, make a procedural ruling on the emergency docket, and say, oh, sometime later we'll get to the merits someday in the future, torture all the prisoners you want, torture all the immigrants you want. We'll get to it eventually. When Biden tried to do something that the court thought was unconstitutional or illegal, boom, like that, emergency docket, let's go. Biden, you can't do it. Student loans, get that out of here, right? So the court literally acted with more alacrity, with more quickness, with more speed when it came to preventing Biden from providing student debt relief than it is when it comes to preventing Trump from sending immigrants off to be tortured.
Thank you, Mustafa, for asking that question. I feel like we're getting a whole law school segment in 10 minutes here, which is excellent. That's why there's a Black Star Network. So that is excellent. Dr. Walker, Brother Larry, anything for our brother Ellie?
Yeah, sure. I want to talk a little bit about this idea of leaving people nationless, and you touched on that a little bit. And I guess for me, the bigger question is what's happening to these individuals wherever they're sent to countries that are not where they were born. And like I said, this idea of being nationless, what are the long-term implications when it comes to him being, we look at the UN and policies and procedures relating to individuals in terms of humanitarian aid, support, recognition of individual from different nations, and the importance of treating each person like a human being. What does this mean for you think long-term in terms of the United States essentially kind of be, seen as this kind of bastion of what democracy and fairness is supposed to be, but this is the complete opposite of that, and what that means for countries in the future in terms of how they treat individuals that essentially are nationless?
Well, that's a really good question, and I've got two sides of an answer to that. First of all, we are a rogue nation right now, and I feel like most Americans, most Black Americans, kind of have always understood that. And now perhaps white Americans are catching up to the fact that we're the bad guys. We're the menace on the world stage. You don't just have to look at what we're doing to Iran. You can look right now with this court case that, again, it is a violation of an international treaty that we've signed on to for 30 years. This is a human rights violation that we are now a party to as a nation. We are a failed rogue state that is a bad guy on the international stage. And other states that want to be bad guys now can look to us for cover. Can now look to us and be like, oh, look how America treats its prisoners. We can do the same thing. Look how America treats its undocumented immigrants. We can do the same torturous, horrible things. And again, for Black people, that has always been the case. I mean, other countries have always said, you know, look at how America treats its Black people. And now they want to lecture to us about morality. Like, other countries have always known that. We're making it extremely obvious right now during the Trump administration. So that's one side of the answer. The other side is a thing that, you know, I don't know that a lot of people knew that we did to immigrants before Trump, but we did this to immigrants before Trump. The idea that somebody comes here, right? Let's say it's in violation of our laws. I'm not going to get into a whole debate about what our immigration laws should be. I think most of them are dumb, but whatever, in violation of our laws, all right? Now, the immigrant says, well, you can't send me back to my home country because if you send me back there, I will be killed. That is why I fled there in the first place. I was fleeing terror and violence. And the immigrant's claim is so good, is so reasonable, is so provable that the immigrant gets a judge to agree, an actual federal judge to agree, hey, guess what? We can't send them back. They'll be tortured and killed. And so then our government, and not just Trump's government, Biden's government, Obama's government, Bush's government, our government says, all right, well, we can't send you back to your home country because this judge says you'll be tortured. So we're going to send you somewhere else, somewhere that you're not from. You don't speak the language. You ain't got no family. We're not going to let you stay here, which is where you came to. We're not going to let you stay here where you have violated our laws. So the rational play would be for you to be punished here since we're the country that we're saying you violate our. But no. We're going to send you to a random ass nation to be punished. Trump has added into the mix a random ass torturous nation, right? A random ass, El Salvador has developed an entire revenue stream around imprisoning and torturing illegal immigrants. That's part of their GDP now, right? And South Sudan is not far behind. So it's like when America has too much garbage and we try to find another country that's going to take our garbage. Instead of dealing with it ourselves, we pay somebody else, because that's what America does, to take our garbage, right? You can imagine the kind of countries that are willing to take our excess immigration problems. They're not, the leaders in human rights around the world, right? We're not sending people to like the south of France because the French are so much more evolved than we are. That's not what's happening, right? We're sending people to countries in political or economic turmoil who need the money and are not going to treat our detritus particularly well.
Yes.
And that's what's happening, right? And that's what people need. That's where I think some of the moral outrage has to come from what we're doing. If this person has established that they can't be sent back home because they're in too much danger, why can't they stay here? And fine, stay here in jail, stay here in whatever stupid thing that we're going to do. But why can't they stay here where at least we can guarantee, one would hope, some access to civil and humanitarian rights?
Okay. So before we take our first break of the evening, I want to ask Nyambi to come back around if she has anything. If you have anything, Doctor, you want to ask our brother before we go to break. And of course, just as we were going on air, we got news out of New York that the federal courts have told the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Jordan Melgar Samaron. Samaron, of course, exactly what you just said, Ellie, is saying that, hey, listen, if you send me to El Salvador, I could really get jammed up. So the federal courts, at least the lower level in New York, have just said he's, of course, joining Kilmar Orlando Abrego Garcia, who was returned recently. So, Nyambi, anything for Ellie?
Well, hey, Ellie, it's been a while. Good to see you. So you were talking a bit about the Convention of Torture, and that's basically out the window. And so now we're becoming a model for all the wrong reasons. But you started talking about this loophole, right? That the Supreme Court has essentially said, yes, Trump can exercise. But what do we think about this? Or how do we think about this, especially in a legal framework where this does become potentially a revenue stream for other nations that essentially can have these other people to do whatever they wish to do with them? How do we talk about this?
I mean, you're talking about basically the plot of like 15 different dystopian sci-fi novels, right? Where you have an entire economy based on imprisoning people. But we also know that entire economy doesn't just exist in these other places. They don't just exist in El Salvador and Sudan. We know that we have our own private prison complex that's $1 billion industry that profits on the enslavement, because let's always remember the 13th Amendment applied to everybody except prisoners, right? The amendment that ended slavery applied to everybody except prisoners, right? And we already know we have $1 billion industry based on the forced labor of our incarcerated folks, right? And they do everything from, the standard kind of apocryphal making license plates to picking our food, to stocking our shelves, right? These are workers in our economy that are unpaid, that are treated as slave labor because they are incarcerated. So my first answer to that question is that we could start at home. We could start by not supporting the private prison complex, by passing laws that ended the enslavement of our incarcerated Americans. Like that would be a good start, but it's difficult to get people to think about prisoners as humans. Especially difficult to get white people to think about prisoners as humans. So like that's one avenue where we could reform. Another thing I always want to throw this out there because I think it's critically important. When you are a lawyer and your job is to find a loophole in an international human rights treaty, that's a pretty good indication that you're working for the bad guys. Right, like that's the bat signal of I work for bad people if they're asking me to find a damn loophole in an international human rights treaty, right? And there's got to be some level of public shaming and disgust for these people, right? John Sauer, the Solicitor General, who is credited with finding the loophole in this particular case, there's no reason why this man should be able to go to a cocktail party in D.C. and not get booed out of the bar, not get booed out of the brunch spot, right? Like these are bad people who are doing bad things and then don't get treated like bad people, not only in their current job, but like when they wash out of government and they go back into private practice, private lobbying, whatever, they get to resume their lives as if they hadn't just spent 4 years finding new and interesting ways to torture people. Like that also shouldn't be a thing, right? So I am all for actual reforms. I'm all for starting at home and reforming our prison industrial complex. But I'm also for shaming. And I'm not Luigi. I'm non-violently and all that. But I'm all for shaming the people who spend their 9 to 5 trying to figure out how to hurt people more efficiently.
Thanks, Niambi, and thank you, Ellie, for at the last minute jumping in for us. Ellie Mystal, of course, correspondent for The Nation, author of Allow Me to Retort, and the most recent book, of course, released 3 months ago, the best-selling Bad Law, 10 Popular Laws That Are Ruining America. Brother, we're going to have to schedule a session at the Black Table. Maybe we can get our friend Martha Jones and y'all can walk us through whether there is truly a constitutional threat to birthright citizenship. A lot of people are blowing it off, but I know you are taking that very seriously. Thank you, brother. Thank you for joining us here again, Roland Martin Unfiltered, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
All right. Very good. This is Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We will be right back.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, the wealth gap has literally not changed in over 50 50 years, according to the Federal Reserve. On the next Get Wealthy, I'm excited to chat with Jim Castleberry, CEO of Known Holdings. They have created a platform, an ecosystem to bring resources to Blacks and people of color so they can scale their business.
Even though we've had several examples of African Americans and other people of color being able to be successful, we still aren't seeing the mass level of us being lifted up.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change, Juneteenth.
It's a day about Blackness. It's a great day about freedom. It's also a day about talking about justice delayed. And we are not in the business of justice being denied to us. So stick around. And we are going to talk all about the case for reparations.
The push for reparations is not just an economic project, it's a moral project. So if we want to live up to the ideals of this foundation, then reparations has to be something that we pursue.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Truly proud on the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder on Disney+. And you're watching Roland Remarks, Unfiltered.
Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett did not hold back during today's DOJ Committee on Oversight hearing, where she criticized the agency created, well, it said it was created to help Americans for its failure to do so. Let's check her out.
You know what? It's interesting because we sit here in the Department of Government Efficiency Subcommittee, and the most inefficient thing that we have done since we have had the invention of this nonsense was the fact that we have decided that we will not do accountability or oversight over DOJ because we have failed to bring in the person who actually runs DOJ. In fact, we have decided, or actually y'all decided, that we wouldn't even debate why it is that we should or should not subpoena Elon Musk. In fact, y'all are just trying to get rid of the musky smell because it wasn't working out very well for you. And now you want to pretend as if you are coming in here to do exactly what your constituents want you to do. But the last time I checked, y'all didn't want to go talk to your constituents, because if there was one thing they were complaining about, it was Elon and it was DOJ. You didn't want to hear those. And listen, if I had time, I would run the tape, but I only got 5 minutes because there's plenty of video footage of all of y'all getting your butts handed to you when you went home and people told you how they felt about DOJ. So let's talk about it for a quick second. Americans are looking for help, but instead of offering it to them, the Republicans have unleashed the most aggressive attack on the working class families in American history. And they have been excited to do so. In fact, they are here today arguing to make all the chaos, confusion, and destruction caused by DOJ permanent. They want hungry kids to be permanent. They want sicker Americans to be permanent. They want homeless veterans to be permanent, shuttered hospitals to be permanent, disrupted Social Security benefits to be permanent. They sold out their constituents to give permanent tax breaks to billionaires, and they're doing it. And now they want to have a victory lap, celebrating the pain of their constituents. So, Ms. DeVito, let's go through some of the things that the Republicans have done to see if they're helpful or harmful to Americans. Helpful or harmful? Stripping health care away from 16 million people.
I would say harmful.
Laying off hundreds of thousands of federal workers.
Harmful.
Disrupting or delaying federal services such as Social Security.
Harmful.
Medicaid.
Harmful.
SNAP benefits.
Harmful.
Cutting billions from agencies like NIH.
Harmful.
EPA.
Harmful.
HUD.
Harmful.
FDA.
Harmful.
All right, seems like you understand the assignment. There's an entire agenda that is attacking the working class Americans from start to finish. And then the thing is, they told us that they were going to do this, but, you know, they pretended as if they knew nothing about the playbook that was laid out by good old Heritage Foundation. All of this talk about lowering costs and reducing waste is absolute BS. Their agenda is about one thing, making the federal government so weak that they can exploit it for their personal gain. They're stealing your data to help their companies. They're taking away your health care and food assistance to fund tax cuts for billionaires. Their agenda is pro-disinformation, pro-obstruction, pro-greed, and pro-exploitation. If you didn't know, that's what Doge actually spells out. D, disinformation, O, obstruction, G, greed, and E, exploitation. And congressional Republicans have been complicit in this agenda. They've helped this administration terrorize the public. They've allowed this administration to launch the country into a war without congressional approval. And while we're talking about saving money, let me tell you, just dropping those few bombs in one day, that was the beginning of what is going to be a very long bill for us as they talk about being efficient. There was nothing efficient about doing it. And maybe if there was some consultation, maybe with those that say have constitutional authority, since we care about the Constitution, then maybe we could have saved the American people not only money, but the lives that are now at risk as we have to put out warnings for American citizens in this country and abroad. Maybe we need to start leading with the people at the middle of what it is that is guiding us instead of following one person. The reason that people like me say things like y'all are in a cult is because somehow people are abdicating their duties and abdicating the very people that put them into office. But I got 30 seconds. They've allowed this administration to steal congressionally approved money for cancer research and food delivery to vulnerable communities. They've allowed Elon Musk to infiltrate your medical records and banking data. They've allowed this administration to ignore court rulings, and now Republicans are here patting themselves on the back, literally arguing to make this chaos permanent. So Americans are going to continue to live through chaos and destruction that has been occurring ever since he swore in January. And I hope y'all remember who caused this, because it wasn't
the gentlelady's time has expired.
Also the congressional Republicans.
The gentlelady's time has expired.
All right, there, let's cut that now. We don't need to hear the Congresswoman from WrestleMania, her voice at all. Dr. Ali, the brother Mustafa, you've been on that hill. You and Larry have been sitting behind these people as they are talking. What did we just see, brother? Walk us through what we just saw.
Man, Congresswoman Crockett, she took everybody out to the woodshed and just let them have it. I appreciate someone who brings the receipts, but also really knows the impacts that are happening. Because you got a lot of people come up there, talk a good game, say they care about people, but they're not willing to stand up for the most vulnerable who are out there. And now the vulnerable is actually expanding across our country. You know, the reality of this situation is Doge never was needed, because you had the General Accounting Office, you had inspector generals, of course, in each of these agencies and departments who have a responsibility to be looking at these types of things and pointing out where there was inefficiencies. And the other part of it is you never heard Elon or the rest of that crew come back and talk about folks who got contracts over $500 million and up. Because if you really want to look and see where, you know, there are some questionable actions that are happening, that's where you need to start. On the defense side of the equation, where anyone who spent any amount of time in Washington, D.C. knows that there's huge amounts of money that goes into that space, both dollars that are seen and unseen.
It's interesting. Like you say, policy wonks, people do deep dives and get into the weeds. But I tell you, Dr. Carter, I tell you, Niambi, the gentlewoman from Texas seems to be getting stronger. I mean, she already started at a high level, but her ability to kind of parse data and stitch it together with some compelling kind of rhetoric, put a few good zingers in there, but keep it at a very high level. It just seems like she's getting better and better at this with every hearing. What's your interpretation of those 5 minutes and 8 seconds we saw there?
Well, look, Jasmine Crockett is an attorney. She's a very smart woman, and she came there to do her job, unlike most of her colleagues. And I think that's something that she's pointed out over and over again. When we are talking about members of Congress, these people who see themselves like we're talking about, you know, the Eagles versus the Jets or something, misunderstand what the mission is. The goal of that body is to deliver policy that is the best policy they can do for the most of us, not just for the people who think like them, not just for the people who vote for them. And what Jasmine Crockett has done consistently and very well is keep our mind on that, as opposed to letting these people, do what they want to do and skitter by on some, BS notion of duty, and say what you are is actually derelict in your responsibility, and you are in violation of the oath that we take to this nation and to our constituents. And so one of the things she's done is put her foot on their neck every chance she can get, whether it's in the chamber, it's in the media, and she's getting better because she understands the place better. She is going to be around for a very long time. And I think people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others will rule the day, because Jasmine Crockett is not a person that they can roll over. She speaks fluently their language. Right? She understands how to give as good as she gets. And the other thing she does is understand facts. She speaks, as you know, with data, with evidence, which many of these people have sort of said, hey, Sarah, right? We don't need any of that. We're just going on vibes and feelings. And Jasmine Crockett has reminded us time and again, not just us in this body, but us as citizens, that these people are not doing their job. They're not serving you. And that is what I appreciate the most about Representative Crockett, because she does it every single time she has a moment or opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Walker, Larry, in a previous life, of course, you spent time as a staffer on the Hill, in fact, a legislative director. We've seen, certainly since the November election, some changes in the Democratic Party, some bucking, some challenges. That generational wave, of course, we got our youngest in the federal legislature right now, Maxwell Frost, but then there's the squad, there's AOC, of course, and everybody from Ilhan Omar and Ayanna Pressley, but then you've got the Lauren Underwoods of the world and the Johanna Hayes of the world. It seems as if Jasmine Crockett is emerging as a very potent mix. I mean, she's a generational kind of figure. She's part of that insurgency. We saw what happened at the top of the Appropriations Committee, where they were trying to, Oversight Committee. We saw that kind of tussle for power. And of course, now that congressperson has made transition, so there's gonna have to be a replacement. Larry, what should we be looking for on Capitol Hill, certainly over the next election cycle or two, in terms of Jasmine Crockett and how she's positioning herself? And what do you imagine might unfold in the career of Jasmine Crockett, and why should that be important to us?
I think this is a really important question. I think my colleagues got to it. She's an exceptional communicator, and particularly when you're in the minority, you need that. I think one of the good and bad things about Capitol Hill is seniority. Mustafa and I both know this very well. It works because there are a lot of Black folks who otherwise wouldn't become chair. But the challenge is that it's not necessarily merit-based, and you have to kind of wait your turn. And you see with some of the people that you talked about, Congresswoman Crockett, AOC, Congressman Frost, who is my congressman, these individuals who, like I said, who are excellent communicators, are in many respects being forced to kind of wait their turn. And so you do see this generational push, whether it's members of the CBC, CHC, among other, some of these other caucuses, for a new generation of people who have seen what we've seen a couple months ago with the election of Donald Trump for a second term, are realizing that we need a paradigm shift. And so the old guard, while recognizing we're in challenging times, is not going to easily give up power. And so it will be very interesting as we go into the next midterms. And if the Democrats do take back the House, and, Hakeem Jeffries becomes the first Black Speaker of the House, are any of the foundations going to be shaken? And I'm not really sure, because once again, like I said, regardless, this is all focused on seniority, whether you talk about the House or Senate. But Congresswoman Crockett, like I said, is an exceptional communicator. She's really good, not only for the Democrats, but for the House. The other thing I want to acknowledge, Dr. Carr, is that her voice, whether she's on X or Instagram or TikTok, there are people who may not otherwise be politically engaged are seeing her videos. Yes. And this could have a long-term impact in terms of encouraging other folks from minoritized background, particularly Black women, to run public office.
Yes, absolutely. Well, there's a ray of sunshine here at the beginning of summer. So we need to continue to stay tuned. That's a good point, Larry. I mean, she's she's certainly drawing attention, and the substance is there as well. So a potent combination. We're going to take a break for a moment, and when we come back, we'll talk about what's going on in the Middle East. Roland Martin Unfiltered will be right back here on the Black Star Network.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking faith, family, and fatherhood, from rebellion to rebuilding. Each of us has different things in our toolkit that we need to look at to determine how to establish a way forward. I know going forward is not easy, and most of you, like some people, don't like change. But as we talk about it, we grow together, we love together, we live together, and we laugh together. It gives us an opportunity to discover how to set the pace for what comes next for a healthy, happy, and whole life.
There has to be consistency in their lives that show that you care, for them to know that you're listening, and then that builds trust. And then once you build the trust, they'll begin to open up because you have become their safe place that they have been seeking.
That's all this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, a very different take on Juneteenth with the one and only Dr. Sunyata Ahmed. We'll explore the amazing foods, remedies, and rituals that are a part of our history and the Juneteenth holiday.
So it's our responsibility to return the healthier version to our folks instead of just the red liqueurs marketed to us, the red sodas and the other things. I mean, why does the Kool-Aid man have to sound like Louis Armstrong? He's like, oh yeah!
Oh, yeah, all right. An enlightening and tasty hour of the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. Remember to support the Black Star Network. View across all podcasts and YouTube and all of the platforms, and make sure your financial contributions is what makes it possible for us to be on the air. All right, let's turn our attention to potential World War III. There's a lot of uncertainty right now whether the ceasefire in the so-called Middle East will be upheld by Iran and Israel. After the deal was brokered, rockets were still flying, both sides blaming each other for breaking the agreement before it even had a chance to hold. Looking here, the Iranians celebrating ceasefire victory over Israel. The UN chief has weighed in again, saying that Iran and Israel must respect the ceasefire. Israel is saying now diplomacy will happen soon, whatever. Bibi Netanyahu is very good at starting wars. Senator Bernie Sanders has said that Netanyahu should not be dictating U.S. policy. We've been seeing a lot of that. And of course, Donald Trump just landed overseas at the NATO conference, even as his own people are saying that they did not destroy Iran's nuclear program. In fact, maybe just set it back a couple of months, but they're scrambling now to walk that back. Trump's taking direct aim, in fact, at both governments. I think we might have some sound there. While both Iran and Israel, there he is. Let's pause here and listen to Donald Trump as he continues to devolve before our very eyes.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Well, maybe they don't know what they're doing, because if there's anybody in the world, if there's anyone in the world who is an expert on when people don't know what the fuck they're doing, it's certainly Donald Trump. This is just breaking. here at the United Nations, Moscow. Out of Moscow, Russia says the United States and Israel violated the UN Charter with the Iran attack. It's very interesting to see what's going on now. China has kind of come down on the violation of the UN Charter side. Russia has done the same. France is kind of drifting that way as well. The UK stood up and saluted, of course, the United States. And Trump apparently sharing a message he got from the head, Mark Rutte, of NATO, cheering him on. But, you know, this thing is really continue to unfold in real time. And while both Iran and Israel have acknowledged the shaky ceasefire, no details have emerged about the terms of the deal or what concessions, rather, either side may have made. The Iranian foreign minister says negotiations won't continue unless aggression against Iran ends. And in fact, out of Palestine, a message has come, Palestinian authorities saying that they want a ceasefire as well. Mustafa, what do you make of these developments, not only in Iran and Israel, but in the region? And how does this play against the backdrop of what's going on globally, not just in the United States?
Well, it destabilizes, right? Everybody's always talking about trying to find a way to stabilize what's going on in the Middle East. And these sets of actions are destabilizing, and they have ripple effects. So it puts all kinds of people's life in jeopardy, right? Both, you know, folks who are in, you know, the countries that are there, but also all across the planet. You now have, you know, you see people in heightened senses of alert right now in different facilities across our country, things that they often call as tier 2 targets. So, you know, they're increasing the security there, but you also understand whether it's the bases that are across the Middle East or in other countries are also now men and women are in harm's way. So, you know, when people don't know what they're doing, when they don't continue to invest in diplomacy and automatically just go to a military option, you're placing yourself in a very precarious situation. And once again, as we've said before on this show, it shows that these folks are unprepared for these significant situations that they'll have to make decisions about.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you know, as you're talking there, the question of diplomacy, we know the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the so-called JCPOA that Trump walked away from, that was negotiated in the Obama administration, of course, set the stage for this. Everyone is saying, including Tulsi Gabbard, which apparently, you know, she was shut out of the conversation on what to do a couple of days ago, is saying that Iran does not yet have nuclear capability, that they weren't on the verge. And Bibi Netanyahu, of course, has been saying that Iran is on the verge for the last 20-something years. So we know he obviously can't be trusted. Larry, thinking about this question then of where we are in terms of a peaceful resolution, even as it's being reported about an hour ago, Rosemary DiCarlo, the UN's Undersecretary General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs, told the UN Security Council today the truce is also an opportunity to peacefully resolve the Iran nuclear issue. Do you think that this can reach a peaceful resolution?
I think it's going to be difficult because the United States is, you know, consistently, you know, whether it's disagreements between Iran and Israel or other nations, has at times, despite our troubling history, played, you know, kind of peacemaker. But it's hard to play peacemaker after you followed the lead of another country that, you know, attacked the nation unprompted. And I also, you know, Dr. Carr, this also in terms of the United States legitimacy as not as a superpower, but as a diplomatic entity throughout the world, right? I think that, you know, particularly the last couple months that, you know, you've seen the Trump administration and in many respects, you know, allow their actions to chip away at whatever capital the United States has. So, yeah, I think that, you know, what we have here is, this, you know, less than 2 week of a period, allegedly, to kind of work some things out. But the other part of this is you've got to get Netanyahu to hold steady. And whether it's been Donald Trump or President Biden, neither one of those individuals seem to be able to say, even though they're capable of it, don't do that. And if you're not capable to have, if you're not, you know, don't have the ability to prevent him from these major or minor skirmishes, then we're going to find ourselves right back in the same place 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, 2 years from now. So the United States has to show a steady diplomatic hand, and secondly, not contradict themselves by doing some of the things that we discussed a few minutes ago. And then thirdly, we're going to have Netanyahu to hold steady and not attack Iran again.
Indeed. It seems incredibly unstable, but Netanyahu is very consistent. He's always going to start a fight if for no other reason he's trying to stay out of jail. So, Dr. Carter, I'm thinking about something that you gave a talk back in December over at Politics and Prose that I saw posted on the Wilson Center's website, of course, the eviscerated now Woodrow Wilson Center, where you're talking about how, these issues spill out over borders. It isn't just about countries and flags, it's about people. And with such a volatile situation in Iran and in Israel, but with a population in that region that transcends those artificially drawn borders, how could what we are seeing right now lead to, I don't want to say further instability, but how could it change even the politics of the region? The Yemenis, we've seen the Houthis, of course, and Hezbollah and Hamas, all of them getting support from Iran, but then China, perhaps. I mean, do they re-up the Iranians and their arms and their stockpiles? What are your thoughts on how this isn't just about Israel and Iran, but it's about people throughout the region?
For sure. And I think my colleagues hit a lot of the major points. But I think something you said that is really critical is that we have to understand that most of the reasons why people move or leave have to do with this kind of instability. So in fact, we're creating more pressure on the region because people don't tend to stick around when bombs are dropping. People tend to flee to neighboring countries. People tend to flee to where they can go. So this is what putting pressure on Europe. This is going to put pressure on other parts of the Middle East. And certainly, I think one of the things that the United States is realizing they'll never admit is that part of the reason that China is such a juggernaut is China moved into all those places on the continent of Africa, in the Caribbean, in the Middle East, that the United States basically walked away from and said we wanted nothing to do with. And it's not to suggest that China is more altruistic, but in terms of giving up ground, internationally, the United States did that all on its own. And when we look at what's happened over the last, say, 6 months, since Donald Trump has been in office, we've moved away from all sorts of international relationships that actually kind of held the world together. And none of us, and I think this is something we don't talk about enough, have lived in a world with no United Nations, no NATO, right? Like, we've not lived in that universe yet. No World Health Organization. We're experiencing it now. And so I think whether we're talking about Iran or any other place, one of the things we know is that part of the reason why Iran is here is because of U.S. intervention and because the U.S. really participated in creating the conditions for Iran to look like it does now, for Iraq to look like it does now. And it's sort of like we tried to semi-subscribe to the you break it, bought it kind of philosophy, but we've never actually invested in that region because we view it as instrumental to our own ends. So I think we're going to create a situation where people will be flooding to other nations, these other nations will need more assistance. And we are doing all of the things that seems to be contraindicated by the politics that Donald Trump espoused. Yeah. So it's going to require more international cooperation, not less, to manage the fallout.
Okay. All right. Well, that got another history lesson there, and that is important. I'm being told we're going to forego the break and go straight now to our conversation. Is that right, Carol? All right, very, very well. I'm a man of a certain age from the hip hop generation. So those of you who remember this quote, what I'm about to say, you will remember Big Daddy Kane at the Apollo Theater, live at the Apollo, and the MC said, "He has arrived, Big Daddy Kane." So I'm not gonna give you a new nickname, Congressman, but that Kane of yours does speak, but you speak louder than the Kane. He has arrived, in fact, one of the most accessible members of the federal legislature, a man who I'm happy to say, it just came back from Galveston. Happy belated Juneteenth. Your comrade Al Edwards, of course, was standing there in Ashton Villa on Juneteenth there in Galveston. But a man who has called once more for the impeachment of the President of the United States. I see your colleagues voted 344 to 79 today, not to follow your lead, but they'll come around. It's so good always to see you, Congressman Al Green.
Thank you.
Good to see you, brother.
Thank you, dear brother. It's an honor to be with you. And you mentioned Al Edwards, so I have to just say a quick word about it.
Yeah, please.
Al Edwards is the father of Juneteenth.
Yes.
I saw him suffer when he brought that holiday to our attention. There were many people at the time who thought that that was a holiday for buffoonery. They didn't see it as what it was, the history associated with it. And he knew more about Juneteenth than most people, than most that is published. For example, most people don't understand that, and this is from Al and now my research, that the people who really liberated the enslaved persons were African ancestry.
Yes, sir.
It was the 25th Army Corps that came in. And most people say, well, General Gordon Granger came in, read General Order Number 3, which did not free black people.
No.
I mean, if they freed them, why was Dr. King having freedom marches?
Yes, sir.
It did not free. It acknowledged the need for freedom. It did acknowledge it, but it said, go back to wherever you were, work for whomever you were working for. I mean, I'm going to go back to this man, the whip,
and they called it home.
Yeah.
Stay home and work for
yes.
See no wage.
And by the way, don't come up to this military base. We're not going to protect you.
And do you know any idle blacks? They said, don't come in your idleness.
Thank you. Yes. So it really didn't. I mean, but Al Edwards really suffered to get that first state holiday, first state to recognize it. First, Texas, of all places, by the way.
Of all places.
Of all places.
Well, the best place for it.
Well,
like you said, I mean, because Texas get worked out, the rest of the country is going to be all right.
If you can convince Texas. Texas is the only state to secede twice because of slavery. Texas left the United States, but also Mexico.
Yes.
I mean, in Mexico, before they would give up their slaves, they said, we'll leave Mexico. Then they came over to the United States, left. So. Look, just thank you for allowing me to say that.
No.
But now I don't want to in any way demean Jackson Lee, because he was at the state level, and when it got to the federal level, she pulled it across the line for the national holiday.
Absolutely.
But, without Al, I don't know. And by the way, he was a neophyte. First year, he was a first-year legislator. If he had known what he couldn't do, he wouldn't have done it probably. Sometimes you don't know what you can't do. I mean, your first year, you're not supposed to do things like that. But he did.
I tell you, man, we were actually outside of Reedy Chapel, AME, when the former president was there, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And what an irony. I remember standing there in the White House as you stood there next to the President of the United States as he signed that bill into law, creating the federal holiday. Something to the court. And as I stood in the back, I was standing with some of the White House security. I said, how do y'all feel about it? And this sister I was standing next to just so happened to be from Texas. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, we've been doing this a long time. It's no news for us.
Yeah.
Just kind of laughed. But watching you stand there, and then, of course, that's not why you came down to discuss, but I mean, we had to take the opportunity because that's your country. No, that's your part of the country. How important is it for us now in this corridor between June 19th and July 4th to use this time to really think about the possibilities of what this country can be, how far we've come and how far we have yet to go? But that's interesting, isn't it? That June 19th to July 4th now can be transformed in terms of us really having that conversation.
Well, I think that you're right. That's a time for us to do more than celebrate. I think the celebration is good, but there's some commemoration also that has to take place. And I regret that in too many places it has become, go out and buy your Juneteenth mattresses, big sale, half off Juneteenth mattresses, that sort of thing. I do think that it merits more than simply saying we were liberated, we were freed. We need to talk about the lives of the many who were not. And I think that leads us into August the 20th, which is Slavery Remembrance Day.
Yes.
We have to commemorate the lives that were sacrificed for 240 plus years. In 1956, Congress awarded a Congressional Gold Medal to the Confederate soldiers, the enslavers. Surely we can do that minimum. but their lives have to be appreciated and respected. And I'll be quite candid with you, until they are, we won't get the respect that we merit, because our ancestors are not being respected in this country.
That's right.
We want, and people who want reparations, I'm one of them. We're not going to get reparations for people that are disrespected. We got to first make sure you respect them. And to respect them, you got to have a day to acknowledge. And now we've also legislation to make it a month, Slavery Remembrance Month. Here's what's interesting, and this is not to demean anybody, but we've had Slavery Remembrance Day up for a long time, and now we got month. Hip Hop Remembrance just sailed right through the Senate. Just sailed right through. Now look, I'm glad it did. I not to demean it, but I just want those senators to know that there's more to us than hip hop. I'm not in any way demeaning what happened. I'm celebrating, I'm with them, but let's get to our people whose lives were sacrificed to make America great. It's a great country because you had 246 years of free labor.
That's right.
Free, and if you're in this country, you're benefiting from it.
No question about it. Well, Congressman, we all watched. No. We all watched Wrapped, and when we go to the panel, I know that there's going to be some questions folks are going to ask you about this. We all watched you once again, rise to the floor of the House and bring this issue before not just the federal legislature,
Mr. Speaker,
before the Congressman, but we're going to play it, and then maybe you can respond to it. We have the sound here. Oh, okay, very good. We're queuing it up now. So you can see yourself there. Those at home, if you haven't seen it yet, we'll show it again in a moment. Congressman,
yes,
this is the third time?
Actually, it's the fourth.
The fourth? Okay, go ahead. Walk us through.
Well, the first time was, of course, when the president was first elected, and he started to show that he was antithetical to people of color, to the religion of Islam, to persons who are associated with the LGBTQ plus community. And he was in a meeting in the White House, and he referred to the countries of Africa as S-hole countries.
Yes, sir.
You know, I mean, that didn't settle well with me. He referred to African-American football players as SOBs, you know, then he really did all he could to hurt anybody who would take a knee, as opposed to stand and put your hands over your heart. Well, so we brought articles related to his invidious discrimination. And the first time we received, I think, about 58 votes. So it went on from there. Second time and last time was 95 votes. And then thereafter, you build up so much momentum with this that at some point, the rest of Congress recognizes that this is what the people want.
Yeah.
And what the people want, we usually try to provide. And when that happened, then he was called for the impeachment as associated with phone calls that he made, trying to get people in Ukraine to do some dastardly deeds, for which Ukraine is still paying for.
Yes, sir.
And now this time, it really emanates from, I was working on articles of impeachment against the president and the vice president. And then he decided that he would bomb Iran without conferring with the Congress. And there was supposed to be today a briefing about it. No briefing. We have not been given any information about what happened from sources that are supposed to be able to give us the intelligence.
Can we pause there, because lawyers are on all side of this issue. And we know the War Powers Act, of course, in the wake of the Nixon administration, is secret bombing in Cambodia. But you just raised something that we've heard reported, we've all heard it, but I don't know if we've spent enough time on that. Congress has the power, has the sole authority to declare war, right?
Absolutely.
And they can call it an action like they did, I guess, Korea or something, get around that. But no briefing? What's the precedent for that, Congressman? Has that happened before?
I know of no precedent. I've only been there 20 years, so things.
So Iraq War, none of the other
I recall other briefings, and I don't recall having something as major and significant as this, and we get no briefing. I think that, as you know, this president is always trying to keep things from us because he doesn't want his image soiled, and we will take him to the carpet, as it were. But So we didn't get this briefing, but he took us to war, and he not only did he not brief us then, but he hasn't briefed us now, and this is clearly a violation of Article 1 of the Constitution, Section 8, Clause 11. It's a violation. And you mentioned the 1973 War Powers Act. Nixon was doing all these things without telling people. So we merit that kind of consideration. But whether we get it or not, what he did was declare war on Iran. Now, some would say, well, how do you conclude that he didn't say he was going to war? Because if someone bombs a facility in this country, we conclude that that's war. Absolutely. And we have gone so far as to say that people who are coming here from another country, people who are coming and they're saying they're committing all these kinds of crimes. They've said that they're engaged in war against us. We're quick to use war when it's someone else, and slow to use it if it's us. But the truth is that was war, and that merits impeachment. I don't see, when the courts can't control him, he defies federal court orders, including the Supreme Court. When he can deport people, from the country, push them out of the country without due process, do you really want to give him and let him think that he now has the power to take more than 300 million people to war on his own volition? There has to be checks and balances. That's why we have Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the Constitution, and it says Congress declares war. So it was very clear for me. Now, I'm not mad at anybody. I let people vote however they choose, but this was a vote of conscience for me.
I tell you, man, the magnanimity is consistent. You're very magnanimous with these folk, man. You always keep it classy, as the young people would say. But I tell you, one of the most electric moments in the speech you gave in introducing this 5-page resolution came for me near the end, when you referred to the current governor of Texas, who is working overtime, trying to figure out how to gerrymander you out of your seat. And you said, I don't care. A couple of things really hit me. One was, you said, as you said, it's a matter of principle, whether it's me or somebody else. But you also stressed the fact that opposition will always rise. And if it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. Could you say something?
Well, that's just the case. I don't know why the universe is constructed as it is, but it's constructed such that there will be another to follow, if not to join. And you can, it's almost as though that person is waiting in the wings and just, when will it be my time? And it works that way. People say that we didn't have leadership after Dr. King. I don't know. Jesse Jackson, that brother put in a lot of time. Andrew Young put in a lot of time. John Lewis put in a lot of time. There was leadership.
Barbara Jordan.
Yes, sir. Right there in Texas, Fifth Ward.
Yes, sir.
So I can't let it be about me, because it isn't about me. It is not. It's about the people that elected me. So I can't let my election supersede the needs of the people who elect me. If I do that, then I'm not being principled about why I'm where I am. So, by the way, I don't expect to keep getting reelected. I know that they're going to eventually. They'll find a way to do it. Right now, the governors
or not,
and the president.
I mean, I was just reading a book. It's called Lone Star Constitution. Yeah. They say the most progressive and forward-looking uses of the Constitution in terms of the legal battles came out of the state of Texas. So I'm not sure at all that they'll be able to do it. Y'all got some of the baddest lawyers in the country.
Yeah, well, now that's true too. But not only out of the state of Texas, but out of Houston, because
yes, sir.
It was in Houston where we were having white primaries.
Yes, sir.
And Lonnie Smith, who was a dentist in Houston, he's the person who filed the lawsuit that went all the way to the Supreme Court challenging white primaries. But get this, in Texas, when the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that, you can't have a white primary, and then the person who wins the primary wins the election. This is what the Supreme Court says. And you know what Texas did? Texas said, okay, well, we'll have a white pre-primary.
Right.
white pre-primaries. It's a true story. So you're right.
Smith versus Allwright. In fact, I was just at the African American Research Library at the Gregory School on Friday, just going in powerful exhibit right there next to Freedman's Village, reading about Mr. Smith. Man.
Yes.
Don't mess with Texas, man. The black folk down there will save the country if you get out of the way.
We've got some people who have really taken some powerful stands. I'm just going to mention one person.
No, please. And then we're going to bring everybody in.
We're all over the place now. But this is a person who has not received his just credit for things that he's done, and that's Craig Washington. Craig Washington was just a powerful lawyer. They still talk about Craig Washington in Congress. I mean, to this day, his oratory is quoted, and people remember how he would take on the Republicans across the aisle all alone, right there in the well. So just thought I would mention him. He's here out of Houston, great lawyer, and a person who cares about people.
Well, I'm glad you did, Congressman, and we're not at all over the place at all, because you are standing in the truth and you're standing for the people, regardless of background, race, nationality, and what you did this week, regardless, and as I said, as we have gone on the air, 344 to 79, they voted not to take up the articles, but that doesn't matter. The truth is what matters. And so
we're at Genesis. This is the Genesis. The revelations are yet to come.
Yes, sir.
We all, in my opinion, the people that I associate with, we have the same destination in mind, but it's like going from here to Texas. Somebody take a bus, someone might take a plane, another person a train. We won't get there at the same time, but we still have the same destination.
Absolutely.
And we'll get there. Absolutely. So I just see it as a building process. I'm not at all moved one way or another by the number. I'm appreciative that we were able to get it to the floor so that the people can know and hear some of the things that are happening associated with this war that they might not hear ordinarily.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for coming down the street, Congressman. I'm going to bring our folks in. Dr. Carter, you've written about this in your book, American While Black, among other things, and please, I'm going to get out of your way so you and Congressman can have a conversation.
Well, thank you, Congressman Green, for your advocacy and your continued efforts. And one of the things you talked about a moment ago was just sort of the incremental parts of this and making sure that you keep this top of mind. What can we do to support you?
Well, thank you. I am a person who believes in peaceful protest, and I think we should promote it. This president uses his incivility to take advantage of our civility. We can't allow him to do this. We need people out protesting, peacefully protesting. I'm not saying damage any property, don't hurt any person, but peaceful protest is a means by which we get things done in this country. So I encourage it. I participate in it myself. I'm looking forward to marches that are already coming up on my calendar. So I believe in it. And then I would add this. I think that we have to step out of our comfort zones and talk to people who don't always agree with us. I have to do it of necessity because of the work that I do. I deal with people every day who don't agree with me. But people come to lobby me for things that they know I support. I'm all over it. And we've got to step into some of those other offices, as other people will do, and come to my office and lobby and ask for things. So I think step out of our comfort zones and take our message to some additional people that probably wouldn't hear them otherwise.
Dr. Larry Walker, please, for Congressman Green. Congressman, they want you to look at that one when you answer. Okay. Can't hear you, Larry. I think they got you. We're on mute. Can't hear Dr. Walker.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. You touched on this. Members particularly of the Congressional Black Caucus, know the conscience of Congress historically. And I'm curious in terms of what you said this is the fourth time you introduced these, to seek the impeachment of the president. How do you want to be remembered historically?
I never get that question.
A lot of history left to be written up.
I'm too busy trying to stay ahead of them to acknowledge that they're going to catch up with me, but they will. I just as a guy who really it didn't belong in Congress. There is nothing about me that says that I should be in Congress.
Oh,
I'm serious. I stumbled into this. I didn't earn it. I really didn't. I stand on the shoulders of people who had 90-pound German shepherds to bite them, and who had high-pressure water hoses to sting them. Loved ones went to jail, and some of them suffered. Medgar Evers right there at his front door trying to get in his house.
Absolutely.
So, I just remember that a guy who stumbled into Congress tried to do his best while he was there. And I've never thought that I'd be here this long. I always figured they would kick me out long before now, because as they see me, I'm a contrarian. I see myself as a liberated Democrat, unbought, unbossed, and unafraid. There's some people, no matter how much money they offer, I won't take it. I'm not going to send another dime to Israel. I'm not. Israel has killed, under the leadership of Netanyahu,
yes, sir,
they have killed too many babies. They have hospitals, roads, schools. The number of children who haven't had a day of school since this thing started. So I can't support that. And so people are going to come after me. AIPAC is notorious for coming after people who do what I do. But let them come. And I'll do the best that I can. But I will leave knowing that I never sacrificed my principles to get a vote. I'm not going to do that. And I just remember that I stumbled into it, and I did the best I could.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got a quick question from Dr. Ali, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, for Congressman Al Green.
Yes. Well, Congressman Green, it's good to see you. And thank you for standing and never bowing, which is important. I met you, good gracious, almost 20 years ago when I was working for John Conyers. And at that moment, I heard you speak about the people and the importance of serving the people. And I'm curious about, you've been doing this for a while and you've been doing it effectively. How do you take care of yourself? And what would be your message to others who are out here fighting as diligently to make real change happen?
Well, thank you for being so kind. And Mr. Conyers was a wonderful congressperson. He got a raw deal. There's so much to be said about that. H.R. 40, John Conyers was the guy. He was on top of it, chairperson of the Judiciary Committee at one point in his life. I appreciate your thinking that I take care of myself, but my doctor tells me that 4 and 5 hours of sleep a night is not enough. I wish I could tell you that I had the best diet. I try to eat a lot of vegetables, but I don't. I enjoy fish and fowl. So I can't really advise a person on the best way to maintain yourself. I have just been blessed. God has been good to me, and I'm trying to do the best that I can to repay the favor. But here's what I would say to a person. I believe that in our life, we should do as best as we can to not allow cliches like live and let live to become a reality. I don't believe in live and let live. I believe in live and help live. Live and help. Live and let live means you go your way, I'm gonna go mine. Sorry if something bad happens to you. Just that's the way life is. No, I think we can help people to avoid things that can hurt them. So I have a live and help live philosophy. I don't believe that we should decide that we are going to tell people what they must do. I try to lead by example. I didn't ask one person to vote for the articles of impeachment.
Yes,
not one.
And yet 79 or 78, and
I try to just be a good example.
Yes, sir.
This is what I believe. And if you think it's a good example, then, come along with me. And if you don't, then do what you need to do. So my philosophy is kind of simple. Don't live and let live, live and help live, and try to lead by example. It's better to see a sermon than hear a sermon,
Yes, sir.
Try to be the sermon that you hear.
Yes, sir.
My grandfather was a preacher, by the way.
Well, that's clear. He passed that on to you. From the Texas Ninth, elected by the people of the Texas Ninth, but representing all of us and our common humanity, the great Al Green. Congressman, thank you for always being here with us. Brother.
Love and happiness.
No question.
For the good times. Let's
so
stay together.
Of being alone.
Let's stay together.
All right. We're going to move now. Roland Martin is going live in Syracuse. He's about to speak. We're going to join it live in progress. There he is, resplendent in magenta and gold. We're going maybe it should be black and gold, Congressman Green, but that's all right. So we're going live to Roland now. Okay, very good. I guess, Congressman, we got a second here. Now, listen, the man is right. You need to take care of yourself. We know you don't get any sleep because you constantly, if you're not battling there, you're constantly joining us on the air. How do you think this thing is going to play out now in the Middle East? There's a tepid truce, so to speak.
Well,
nobody's being briefed.
When you make more enemies than you kill, you're going to have long-term problems. And all of those babies who are fatherless now,
yes.
You know, I mean, are we asking people to divest themselves of what God has given us to protect ourselves? That's memory. You know, memory is there for a reason.
Yes.
And I'm not wishing that any of this would happen. I'm giving you a perspective that we don't hear a lot, I think. And that is that these thousands of babies that are still alive but who've lost brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers, I don't know that you can say that that's just going to evaporate. I just don't see it. And I think that what we have done, meaning our working with Mr. Netanyahu, Mr. Trump and Netanyahu, is convince a lot of people that you need a bomb.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to say, I'm going to get me one too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I tell you that may be the most important thing we need to be paying attention to is the fallout coming from this. So, all right, we're gonna take a break here in a moment. We're here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, live the Black Star Network. And I'm being told. Thank you. We're going back. Roland Martin speaking there for the NAACP in Syracuse, New York. We're going right to our brother, Roland Sebastian Martin.
Information. And we launched the show, we launched 4 shows, and understand, again, what happens when you do the work. When we were in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, when you reach a certain level, YouTube assigns you your own person. And they told us that when they grouped us in the same category as all of the other, they put us in the category of the progressive shows. We don't call my show not progressive, it's not conservative, we're not liberal, we're not Democrat, we're not Republican, we black. And I say that because we purposely center African Americans, so we're not a part of the conversation, we are the conversation. And they said they were surprised and shocked when they tabulated all of the shows that we had the highest watch time per viewer out of all the shows, including those that were far larger than ours. That means that folks were truly engaged in our content. We've had some 36,000 donors since we started. We don't have any millionaires, billionaires. We fight in the ad industry every single day. $340 billion spent annually in this industry. Black-owned media is only receiving 0.5 to 1% of advertising dollars. And that's one of the reasons why you don't see the growth among black newspapers. You don't see the growth when it comes to black digital outlets. There's a reason why when you look at the black cable networks, you don't see a single news show. The only show on BET is a monthly show that's 1 hour. And it's a whole lot that happens that we can't cover just in 1 hour per month. so that's what we've been able to focus on. And so, so many of you have stopped me and said that you subscribe to our channel, that you are a donor to our show. And one thing I really appreciate about our fan base is I'm very frank with them. I say, listen, this is not going to be like, PBS or NPR. I'm not sending you a hat, a shirt, a tote bag. No, literally, I say that if you donate to the show, all the money is going back into the show for the content and producing that. And we probably have had maybe 100 people complain about not getting something. But the other 36,000 said what we're getting is the news every single day from our perspective. And so that's why it has been fantastic in what we've been able to do. And we're streaming this right now, and that's other deals. When you own it, you ain't got to ask. Like I had my sister, and I said, hey, is it being recorded, being live streamed? She said, I think it's being recorded. I was like, that's fine, because I carry my own stuff with me. And see, it's amazing when people go, you set your own stuff up. I was like, yeah, why would I pay for somebody to come with me to set it up when I can do it in 10 minutes? I'm like, that ain't a smart business person. That makes no sense. To pay for an airplane ticket, a hotel room, a per diem, and a daily fee when I can do it myself. I've been setting up cameras since I was 14. Just because I own it don't mean I can't do it. And so we are always good to go. So we're streaming right now, and then of course we will have it. We will have it available later. So we're looking forward to that. And so again, so folks are watching, and again, this is why it's important. There's so much stuff that's being covered all the time. So much stuff that we cover, and so we appreciate that. So let me get to the task at hand. Your subject here is called "Together Unstoppable: Preserving Our Legacy." I'm about to augment that.
All right, everybody, stay tuned here to the Black Star Network, to Roland Martin's YouTube channel. You can see those remarks there in Syracuse, New York at the NAACP. You can see them in their entirety. Encourage everybody to do that. And we will come back right in a moment here at Black Star Network, Roland Martin Unfiltered. We'll continue in a moment.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie of A Balanced Life. Think about the men in your life and ask yourself these questions. Who are their male role models? Who can they turn to for advice to learn about what manhood is all about? On our next show, we talk about why male mentoring is so important to men of all ages. Actor Dondre Whitfield leads an all-star cast and panel to answer these and many other probing questions.
A woman can't teach you how to be something that she's not.
That's on the next A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, a very different take on Juneteenth with the one and only Dr. Sunyata Ahmed. We'll explore the amazing foods, remedies, and rituals that are a part of our history and the Juneteenth holiday.
So it's our responsibility to return the healthier version to our folks instead of just the red liqueurs marketed to us, the red sodas and the other things. I mean, why does the Kool-Aid man have to sound like Louis Armstrong? He's like, oh yeah!
Yeah, right. An enlightening and tasty hour of the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, my name is Freddie Ricks. I'm from Houston, Texas.
My name is Sharon Williams. I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
Welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. After 29 days of testimony, the prosecution and the defense have rested their case against Sean Diddy Combs. Prosecutors called 34 witnesses, including alleged victims, escorts, law enforcement agents, and assistants. The defense did not call any witnesses to testify. Closing arguments are expected to take place on Thursday and may continue into Friday morning. Combs faces 5 criminal counts: 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. From New York, we should be hearing whether we're going to a runoff or not fairly soon. New York City voters have headed to the polls today to decide who will be their Democratic mayoral candidate. In today's primary, voters have several candidates to choose from, including the controversial former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, and New York State Representative Zohran Mamdani. There are 5 black candidates with hopes of becoming the city's next mayor. If you have not voted yet, you're in the city, you have until 9 p.m. local time to cast your ballot. So, get to the polls if you haven't gone. Randolph Bracy and LaVon Bracy Davis are taking sibling rivalry to the next level as they face off in a race for a Florida State Senate seat. Both come with legislative experience. LaVon Bracy Davis served as a state representative, while her brother Randolph Bracy is a former state senator. Their mother, the late LaVon Wright Bracy, was a prominent civil rights activist, adding even more weight to the family's political legacy. And their father, by the way, was also, their late father, also a prominent civil rights activist. One of their opponents in the Democratic primary for the district, which includes parts of the metro Orlando area, is Alan Grayson, a fiery former United States congressman who rose to national prominence in 2009. The winner will face Republican Willie Montague in September for the general election in the Democratic-dominant district. Black voters make up more than half of the registered Democrats in the district. A white nationalist and former University of Florida law student was expelled after posting anti-Semitic tweets, but not for writing a racist paper about black people for which he received an award. Last fall, Preston Damsky was given the, quote, book award, unquote, by Trump-appointed judge and law professor John L. Badalamenti for his capstone paper. In this paper, Damsky argued that, quote, we the people, end quote, was intended only for white individuals, and that people of color do not deserve voting rights. In March, after Damsky made anti-Semitic posts on social media, the university suspended him and banned him from campus. Wow, not for the paper, though. According to the New York Times, these posts included calls for Jews to be, quote, abolished by any means necessary, end quote. Asserted that Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio were, quote, controlled by Jews, end quote, and suggested that Guatemalan undocumented immigrants should be, quote, done away with by any means necessary, end quote. That's what I remember now. That's what I wanted to ask Ellie about. We'll have to have Ellie Mystal back, because those of you who don't know, if you don't know about the law, understand that you may think that's a crazy argument, but you should read some of the things that these Project 2025 associated lawyers, including Stephen Miller, who has a law degree, have written. A Georgia jury awards a multi-million-dollar settlement to the parents of a baby who was decapitated during delivery. Trevon Taylor and Jessica Ross will receive $2 million in compensatory damages and an additional $250,000 in punitive damages against the pathologist who posted the video, Dr. Jackson Gates, and Medical Diagnostic Choices in Atlanta. The parents sued Gates in September 2023 for an alleged invasion of privacy, fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. According to the lawsuit, neither Ross nor Taylor permitted Gates to share any autopsy images. Despite that, Gates uploaded several graphic videos to his Instagram account showing the post-mortem examination, including explicit footage of baby Isaiah's severed head and body. We have lost another one of the greats in the world of acting. On Thursday, iconic actress Alzina Lynn Hamilton Jenkins passed away at the age of 95. She was known for her roles on the sitcom Sanford and Son, the historic soap opera Generations, and various other programs, including The Waltons. I guess I'm dating myself at that point. Lynn will forever be remembered for her illustrious acting career, her receipt of the prestigious NAACP award, and her outstanding contributions to the entertainment industry. Her legacy will continue to inspire future generations of Black actresses. Let's go back to our panel momentarily before we enter our final block. Anybody have any thoughts on any of the stories that we just kind of went through in our headlines? Maybe we'll start with you, Larry.
You know, Dr. Carr, before moving to Florida, I was always interested in these Florida man stories. And now that I live here, I'm embarrassed with the number of Florida-related stories that come out on a weekly basis. Okay, so the UF story is, as many of you know, UF is the flagship institution in the state of Florida. And this is the second time in the last couple of weeks they've had something embarrassing happen. We saw what happened with the failed vote of possibly new president, former president of the University of Michigan, at the Board of Governors meeting. But this is a really concern for someone like myself, as a faculty member, teachers in the state. Once again, UF is the flagship institution, and then being rewarded for his behavior. And then when people feel like he goes too far, then he's punished. And it's contradictory. And I think it's a story that we should pay very close attention to, considering some of the anti-DI legislation, et cetera, that's occurred in the state. I also want to highlight the Bracy story because this is my district also. And I got to be honest with you, I'm very troubled. I've been troubled by this. They're both replacing Geraldine Thompson, who's a civil rights icon and well-known in the area. But I got to be honest with you, I did vote, but it's concerning to me that you have siblings on both sides, on either side, running against each other, and obviously the mothers come out in support of her daughter. But this story is very concerning for me as it relates to what it means to be a family, and I can't imagine what those Thanksgiving conversations are going to be like in the future.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you, Dr. Walker. Dr. Carter, please, your pick.
Well, I mean, I would have to say the University of Florida Law School story again, because I think one of the things that really struck me about that entire story was, one, like you said, the egregiousness of the argument and the fact that the university claims institutional neutrality. Interesting, because part of what at least I understood in my most elementary fashion is that law school is about teaching people ethics and about proper uses, perhaps, of the law. And maybe I'm wrong, right? But it would seem to me that those kinds of arguments that are dangerous, someone would have at least said, hey, maybe we should have a public forum about this. Not necessarily sense of the argument, whatever, but let's have an argument about this because he also won an award for this. But then the line too far was the anti-Semitism of his personal tweet, which, I mean, weren't a far jump from what he wrote on anyway. But now these very same people in public office play footsie with the likes of white nationalists, who is proud about his subscription to this particular kind of worldview, are going to be the defenders of Jewish people against anti-Semitism. I mean, I think this really sort of lays bare, among many other things, about how any of these incursions onto our university campus are not about anti-Semitism or protecting Jewish people. And so I at least appreciate the fact that this story dispenses with all pretense that this is ever what it was about. So that was a story that I read over the weekend that really stuck with me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bring us home, Dr. Ali. Any thoughts about any of those stories, brother?
I mean, all of them, really, but we'll stay focused. It speaks to the hypocrisy inside of this country, right? Especially by, the Republican Party. We remember, in relationship to the law school case, how they talked about critical race theory, which we know was taught at some law schools, and how they attacked it, didn't want folks speaking about our history, the impacts that happen in our communities, anything that had to do with Black folks. But yet you can have an individual garner an award, spewing all kinds of racist language and actually telling you exactly what white nationalists think about. So that's one side of the equation. And we know that, unfortunately, we've never wanted to exercise, and I say that in the spiritual context, of hate inside of this country. But the other part of it is that we continue to show our Black excellence and our beauty. And when we were showing our dear sister, who, as you said, was on Walton's and Sanford's Son.
That's right.
Right, and a number of other shows. I remember hearing her speak and just the grace in her language and the beauty that was in her language and how regal she was in many of the roles that I've seen. You know, even when she was dating Fred Sanford or on some of the other shows there, you know, at many times we just didn't have those images of Black women, you know, being regal and being powerful and effective. So I see both sides of the equations in those stories, both the parts that we still got to work on because hate is rooted in this nation. And then, of course, the other side is just, you know, how incredible we are when given the opportunity to share our gifts with the world.
Indeed. And yeah, shout out to Yazoo City, Mississippi, which, of course, is where she was from, and of course a theater background. But you're right, brother, that imprimatur of Black folk of a certain age and a certain era, always classy, and it's almost like she wasn't acting. She was just projecting that beauty and that Black womanhood, that strength right there on the stage and screen. And thanks everybody for really raising up that story from from Florida with Damsky, because the professor, again, John Badalamenti, gave him the book award. So, you know, I could see, and I taught the critical race theory class one semester at Howard at the law school, I could see a thought exercise where I could read a paper which could make that argument, if for no other reason in critical race theory, to undermine it. But to give it the award, you went beyond academic freedom. You said, this is the best student in the class. So then it becomes, at that point, it's like, come on, man, really? This is what we doing? And then, of course, a Trump-appointed judge, Trump-nominated judge, let's be very clear about that, hadn't been confirmed yet. So we're going to turn and head toward home. We come back from the break. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, and we will be right back.
This week on the other side of change, Juneteenth.
It's a day about Blackness. It's a day about freedom. It's also a day about talking about justice delayed. And we are not in the business of justice being denied to us. So stick around. And we're going to talk all about the case for reparations.
The push for reparations is not just an economic project, it's a moral project. So if we want to live up to the ideals of this foundation, then reparations has to be something that we pursue.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie of A Balanced Life. Think about the men in your life and ask yourself these questions. Who are their male role models? Who can they turn to for advice to learn about what manhood is all about? On our next show, we talk about why male mentoring is so important to men of all ages. Actor Dondre Whitfield leads an all-star cast and panel to answer these and many other probing questions.
A woman can't teach you how to be something that she's not.
That's on the next A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, a very different take on Juneteenth with the one and only Dr. Sunyata Ahmed. We'll explore the amazing foods, remedies, and rituals that are a part of our history and the Juneteenth holiday.
So it's our responsibility to return the healthier version to our folks instead of just the red liqueurs marketed to us, the red sodas and the other things. I mean, why does the Kool-Aid man have to sound like Louis Armstrong? He's like, oh yeah!
Oh, yeah, right. An enlightening and tasty hour of the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Today's Shop Black Star Marketplace features the resurgence of a pioneering name in Black cosmetics. Once regarded as the first large-scale Black-owned cosmetics company, Fashion Fair is recognized for being the first major cosmetics brand to offer a diverse range of makeup shades specifically designed for women of color. Fashion Fair was initially conceived by Eunice Johnson, the wife of John H. Johnson, founder of Ebony Magazine and Johnson Publications, to cater to the beauty needs of Black women. Although the brand faced challenges and was on the brink of closure, it was revitalized by Desiree Rogers, a name we know well, the company's new CEO and co-owner. Sister Rogers joins us now. Welcome to the Black Star Network and Roland Martin Unfiltered. Sister Desiree.
How you doing there?
Oh,
good to be here.
We are so happy. I tell you, there's an elder here who's one of Malcolm X's lieutenants who worked for the Johnsons for many years, Peter Bailey, who used to work with Miss Eunice Johnson back in the 50s.
Wow.
With the fashion fair. And of course, those of us who are of a certain age, I didn't know anything about the fashion fair, but all I knew was when you opened up Ebony magazine and saw all these cities and all these beautiful black women and all of this stuff going on, it was like, this is like the traveling black excellence show, and somebody take me to the fashion fair. So please, to see these products, and we have some of them here with us right now on the table, please walk us through, after your long and distinguished career, as your long and distinguished career continues to extend, why you got involved with taking one of our most iconic brands and one of the most familiar things in our community, a symbol of community, a symbol of hope, a symbol of black self-determination, economic empowerment, and said, let me jump in here with both feet and revive this. Can you give us a sense of how you got involved?
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, I was certainly very surprised when I found out that the brand was in bankruptcy court. And Cheryl McKissick and I were so lucky to have the winning bid and to be able to bring this iconic brand back. I mean, so much of our history is, people are trying to wipe away our history, remove our history. Can't be, reading books are a problem now. You hear all of these things. And so I think it's super important that we maintain the iconic businesses and brands that have always been there for us. And so Fashion Fair is over 50 years old. And it was originally created, as you said, by the Johnsons and Eunice Johnson in particular, because models did not have the colors they needed for their skin tones. And so we are continuing that tradition of ensuring that all of our people, black and brown, can easily be matched and their shade is available with very high quality products, dermatologist approved, vegan, cruelty free. So we've completely re-envisioned the line in its glory of the past, let's say.
Yes. And it is interesting because, of course, in its first iterations and as it unfolded over the arc of decades, we thought about women. But I love, one of the things I love is that you've opened it up in terms of even our gender kind of imagination in ways that maybe in the 50s, 60s, or even 70s would have been more of a challenge. But could you talk a little bit about now?
That is for sure. Yeah. I mean, everyone wants to take care of their skin these days, whether they're male, female, or are not identifying. And so one of the key products we have is this primer serum, which I actually use every day, whether I'm wearing makeup or not. It gives the moisture back into the skin. It brightens the skin, not lightens, but brightens the skin. And so I think we're at a point in time where people really do want to take care of their skin and in particular their face. I mean, we are vain people. We want to look good. We want to look good. I mean, and to that I say, we know that the black population spends almost $6.6 billion in beauty. $6.6 billion, and that's 2021. So my data is a little bit old. We spend about 11% on all beauty products. The real key, and I'm happy that you guys are having me on, is to get our people to buy black and to buy from black companies. And so that number is significantly lower than it should be. 2.5% of black Americans are buying from black companies. And so we've got to change that. We have to invest in our own communities because we know when we do, that money gets invested back to us, whether it's support of educational systems or mentorships or jobs even. Most of the people that work at the company look like me.
It's interesting, and thank you for saying that and putting it in context. I read in one of the pieces where you made the comment that black folk who carry a bag should maybe try to hit a threshold target. If you're going to buy black, you don't have to buy everything black, but I think there was a percentage you suggested. Am I remembering that right?
You are correct. So I think that it should be, probably, 12, 15%. Why not? I think there's so much history to, us not buying black. What's the quality like? It's almost like brainwashing. Like we think like if we buy, Black, it's not the same quality as the Chanel or a Dior. Or people will say to me, well, that brand is so, that brand's old. My grandmother used that brand. And I say, Gucci's old.
Right.
Chanel's old. Dior's old. But families took care of those brands and now they're still thriving. So we've got to begin to think about the brands that have been created by our people and making certain that those brands extend another 100 years.
Indeed.
And so less criticism and more trying brands, looking at them, touching, feeling them. And, I think if you touch and feel our brands, I'm pretty confident you're going to fall in love.
No question.
I certainly have fallen in love with them, and I think I look pretty good.
Well, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. Desiree. I'm sitting here with the blush duo, the lipstick. Let's see, we have here as well the liquid foundation. See, you got me. Like, wait, can I put this on?
Liquid luxury. That's what we're calling it. And we don't name any of our brands by number. I think you have Honey, I'm Fabulous.
Yes, Honey, I'm Fabulous.
A Bad Bisque is another name, Mahogany Hottie. So we try to have fun with these names and really salute, our community. The summer face can be super simple. Your serum that I have here, maybe the liquid, maybe a stick, and you can have a couple of sticks. It's really easy to, have a couple of shades. I use my stick also as eyeshadow. If I'm traveling, I don't want to carry a lot of stuff. Maybe a little lip teaser and a lipstick. And you're done.
Oh. And see, this says chocolate chip, so I'm going to resist the urge to put this brush anywhere near my mouth. I'm just going
to. Original shades from Fashion Fair.
I love it.
Yes. So with those blushes, we put, a blush, which is chocolate chip, which is a powder, and then we put a cream there, which you're seeing this very nice, I think, kind of a peachy tone.
Yes, ma'am. Oh,
yeah.
Man. That's what I'm talking about.
Got to have fun with the makeup.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's
Don't be afraid of it.
Don't be afraid. That's what I'm talking about. Look, while I'm looking at this Magenta Mist lipstick, I'm going to ask Dr. Ali. Santiago, please, any questions, comments for Desiree Rogers?
Yeah, well, thank you for everything you're doing. My question is attracting a new generation along with holding, the folks who have already been strong supporters of the product. How do you approach that?
Well, that's been the straddle. People that have used the brand in the past, they are very interested in the shades that they loved and whether or not those shades are coming back. And they want to try, and they've been supporters for a very long time. It's how do we get their daughters in that young generation, to your point. We were recently out with the Black influencers in beauty and talking to them, and we're going to be hiring several of them to provide that message for us and really talk about the newness of the brand and why they love the brand. And so I think it's about introduction, it's about social media, it's about support, it's about being here on this show and talking about the brands and making certain that people are aware of the brand, where they can get it, fashionfair.com, also Sephora, also Macy's. You can go onto our site and you can see where you can pick up the brand because people want to see and feel the brand. And so I think our job is to make certain that they know about it and that they know why it's special. I think it's special because we only make for brown and Black people. And so our ingredients are handpicked and selected for those particular skin tones. And we know that many times we can have oily skin, we can have very sensitive skin. So there's no fragrance in any of these products because that fragrance can aggravate the skin. We also have great ingredients like vitamin C, aloe vera, all those good things, all of those things that are nourishing that keep that skin looking healthy and fresh because sometimes we think Black doesn't crack. Well, at some point you got to take care of it, honey.
Yes.
You got to take care of it to have that skin looking good.
Dr. Larry Walker, any questions, comments for Desiree Rogers?
Yeah, so congratulations on this new endeavor. And, we talked about the Johnsons, and I'm wondering if there's something, historical fact that you found out about Fashion Fair. And obviously we noted that it's important history that you found out about that you didn't know as you took on this new endeavor.
I think what's shocking and surprising to me that in 1973 approximately, Mrs. Johnson, who had the Traveling Fashion Fair show that many of us know about, it was the place to be, the show to be seen. She had models all across this country traveling and introducing high fashion to towns as small as itty bitty Mississippi or, or as large as Los Angeles and New York. And what she saw is her models were mixing their own makeup. They were actually buying shades and then mixing in brow powder. And so, she thought, well, wow, let me go to the big companies and see if they'll make some darker shades. And none of them wanted to do it at that time. And so what did she do? She created Fashion Fair brand herself. And she sold it in a capsule collection in Ebony magazine. And that was the beginning of history. She was also the first person to put music to fashion shows. So before her, there was no music to a fashion show. Can you imagine? So that was all her vision and her, I would say, just love of the Black culture and really deciding and being courageous and saying, you know what, you guys don't want to do it? I'm going to do it myself.
Yes, indeed. Well, Desiree Rogers, now folks who are looking at this and are now on their computers and on their phones and on their iPads and tablets, they're looking to see where they can buy this. Where should we send them?
Well, actually, you guys have your own site, right? So yes. We should definitely send them to that site. And, yes. If they want to try the products, they're at select Macy's and Sephora's. And you can easily go to fashionfair.com and look, in the store locator, and it will put your zip code in and it will tell you a store near you. But tonight, we're supporting you guys.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, I tell you, daughter of New Orleans, of course, the first African-American social secretary in the White House, the leader of Black Opal, and the reviver of Fashion Fair, along with her comrades, Desiree Rogers. You've certainly... Oh, wait. Did I miss Dr. Carter? You know what?
Yes,
I was saving her for last because I wanted to get out of the way of the sisters. And guess what? That was Carol to make sure. Thank you, Carol. Look, hey, when I see you, Niambi, do not whip me because I did that on purpose to save you for last. Dr. Niambi Carter, I'm going to be quiet so the two sisters can talk and take us home. Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Please, Niambi, please.
Thank you. Thank you. As a woman of a certain age, Fashion Fair was one of the first brands I ever purchased. Wow. Of makeup on my own. So I'm very happy to see it back. And so I've been on a Black buying spree for makeup for a while. So this is great to be able to add this back to my repertoire. So I wanted to know, are you bringing back any of the vintage colors? So I was an Uptown Brown.
You know what? So guess what? You are in luck. You are in luck. We have Uptown Brown. So, honey, we have brought back a number of the new colors. I mean, the vintage colors, the iconic colors, and we'll continue to bring them back. So we've got a wide range of shades in the lipsticks. I think you guys have Magenta Mist. That's one of the earlier shades. Chocolate Raspberry is certainly the most popular shade. So that we continue to sell out of that. And that is a fabulous shade on any skin tone. We have a large series of browns. We have Sepia, which is a great brown with gold flecks. And so I think you're in for a treat. We have mixed in many of the vintage colors with newer shades.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so excited.
Yes, and it's very skin light, so it's a much lighter weight than it once was. It looks great on the skin, and as I said, we worked with a Black dermatologist to make certain that it's also good for the skin. So it's like skincare foundations, no clogging of pores, beautiful matches. If you have freckles, you'll be able to see your freckles through. So it feels very comfortable. I was in D.C. earlier today, and believe me, that heat was something. But I made it, and I was outside, and my makeup, I think, still looks pretty good.
It looks great.
Yes, a little powder, a little pressed powder.
You don't have to search anymore for the vintage colors all over eBay and everywhere else.
No, I wouldn't do that because I don't know how old those are. And, there is an expiration date. So I would check out fashionfair.com and also check out the Unfiltered website for colors. And then you can always just send us a note. What are the colors that you would like to see? What are we missing?
I swear. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Carol, for making sure that I didn't mess up there, because that's exactly what I was waiting for, that conversation right there. Y'all done gone about 5 levels deep. Correct me if I'm wrong, our good friend Juliana Richardson and Larry Crow and all the friends of the History Makers noted that you were Queen of the Zulu. Is that true?
I was Queen Zulu twice. Can you believe it?
Come on now.
See there? You want some more history? I'm also a descendant of the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. And, you know, may even be somehow related to the Pope. He's from my neighborhood. His people are from my neighborhood. And, you know, they're saying he's black-ish.
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 I know that's right. Louis Armstrong said it was his lifelong ambition to be the king of the Zulus, and you were the queen of the Zulus twice. So I know, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your continued work, not only in Black communities, but really bringing and elevating the best of who we are culturally to the world. And you all make sure you get out here now and continue to take all this stuff off the shelves and buy through the websites. Fashion Fair is back, strong, stronger than ever, projecting into the 21st century. Thank you for joining us, Desiree Rogers. And
well, thank you. Thank you. And here's to all beauty. Everything beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Well, that's it for us. That's it for us tonight here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. Remember to support the Black Star Network across all its platforms. Join the Bring the Funk Fan Club. And we're going to thank our regular Tuesday evening convening, Doctors Ali, Walker, and Carter. Always good to be with you all. And if you haven't seen, or if you get a chance now, stay on the YouTube side and watch Roland Martin's complete remarks on there at the NAACP in Syracuse. Make sure you shop the Black Star Network market. And you see there on your screen now how to support the Black Star Network, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal. Make your checks payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Thanks, Carol. Thank the entire folk in the booth. I wish y'all could see these beautiful people. I posted them on social media, all these young people in there. A bunch of them are my students at Howard University. I am not mad about that at all. And until later, as Roland Martin would say, holla.